All right. It's podcasting time as Bill DeMott is adjusting his mic. Legend Bill Legend is like I call him. I hope you guys have been enjoying the last couple episodes because we're having a hell of a time and we're back for another one, Bill.
It's this is fun, man. This is becoming like I said this, a while back. We talked about how I did some things in the past, but I always look forward to these, man. And you and I've had some good conversations so far, so I'm really looking forward to this episode and seeing what we're going to dive into and come up with.
I always find it easier to do it with somebody else. I've done a lot of solo things and a lot of bringing guests on things, and that is work in itself, as you know. I have a podcast where I cover Indiana stories, is what it's called. So I cover like significant events that happen, people, places, and it's always a hell of a task to find people to get on there. Because I also have podcasts about podcasting. People are chomping at the bits to get on that SOB. But when I do this Indiana one, it's like pulling freaking teeth to find people.
And it's just you, right? So it's just you dealing with you the whole time.
Yeah. So I'm trying to find these people to come on and talk. And then, unlike when I talk to podcasters, they know what they're doing a lot of the time, or people in the industry or content creators.
Yeah.
But when I talk to an 80-year-old Vincennes, Indiana historian, it's a little bit different. But yeah, no, just a consistent thing. Doing it with somebody every week is a lot easier. Certainly we'll have people on at some point, but the battle of not knowing what you're going to have every week is definitely a challenge. So
yeah, because even if you plan it right, it's just if it's not going anywhere, you don't want to stay with it, right? So you just kind of switch on the spot and adjust on the fly, as they say.
Yep, exactly. It's like the wrestling way, right?
Just adapt and go with it and get yelled at off the air.
Exactly. So what have you had going on this week, man, with the foundation and everything? You've been busy? I know you kept forgetting me to send me some stuff that you said you would. I had to keep reminding you.
Jeez. Listen, we're full disclosure. You're going to say that to me every week, and I'm going to go, oh, yeah, I forgot. And guess what? When we're done, I'm going to forget. So unless, that's why I would say my wife's on a pedestal, because she puts up with that sitting in the same room telling me something, and 2 minutes later, pretty bird, and I forget what I was supposed to do. So it's just you talk about, doing a podcast by yourself. That's what it's going to feel like with me, because you're going to go, I thought Bill was supposed to do that. I'm like, oh, yeah.
Well, I can blindside you with all these wrestling questions. So disclosure here, I tell Bill like a day before, hey, we're going to talk about this, but I don't at all say what I'm going to say, what my approach is going to be. So a lot of it's just improv for you. Yeah. So I kind of like it that way, though.
Yeah, I prefer it that way, because otherwise, here's the thing. It's like with the foundation, we go and speak, and quick little fact about the foundation. To date, going into 2023, we've spoken to over 100,000 students.
Wow.
And then, tens and thousands of law enforcement and organizations and companies throughout the country. But it's always funny, because as I put the presentations together, the programs, I kind of write out a speech. So, I have this 13-page speech when I'm, a keynote speaker at a symposium, but I never look at it, because I feel like if I look at it and then I'm kind of going off of that, and I like to feel the room when I'm speaking. And, so it's just like this, when you say, hey, Bill, okay, cool. And that's perfect for me, because if I have to study for it or prepare for it, I think it's less authentic, but kind of absent-minded works for me at 57, 58, whatever I am now.
Yeah, I did call you out on that year, didn't I? When I found out your birth year,
by the way.
Even though I could find that anywhere online, I mean, I knew how old you were. I just wanted to give you crap. So
it's wrong.
Wikipedia's
wrong. Full disclosure: everything on Wikipedia about my personal life is absolutely wrong.
I'm not surprised about. That's not the first time I've come across that at all. I mean,
I can't change it. I don't know. They say you can go in and edit, and people can add, but the person who actually it's about can't change it.
Well, you tell me to change something you want changed, and I'll do it for you, Bill.
My birth date's wrong. Where I'm from is wrong. It has me from Titusville, Florida, I think, or something like that. Or
I'll have to look. Yeah, I don't remember.
And it's just these goofy, like, of all the things that would kind of annoy you, that's the thing. People go, oh, I was born in 1966. I'm like, so what? I wasn't. People go, I know all about you. You're from Titusville, Florida. No, I'm not. I'm a Jersey boy. So it's
Yep.
that damn Wikipedia.
They also kick it off pretty insulting to you, like an underhanded compliment.
Yeah.
Pretty much so call you a jobber right off the bat, right the first sentence, and then say he's transitioned into a trainer. I was like, dang.
Yeah.
Not even save that like kids say professional wrestler then trainer. You got to just
because
throw a jab.
People like to use those behind the scenes words. Everybody knows what those mean.
We're going to talk about that a little bit today. So anything cool that you want to share with the foundation that you did this week, or?
Yeah, so we had I think the last time we talked, we had the banquet. We touched on that, and ever since the banquet, we've gotten very busy because we had a full house. We had over a couple hundred people attend the banquet, and now that message and what the foundation does, I think people don't understand what we do. I think they, it's geared toward just drunk driving, but that's not what we're about. So now that they've learned more about it, it's opened more doors. So there's a few agencies in South Florida that have contacted us to do some programs with them. We're getting ready to head to Alabama again during their prom in March. That season, so it's always very busy for us. And in between, we have victim services. So when we're not doing presentations, we're working with families that have been affected. So it's been a hectic week, but it's always it's fulfilling in a way, and then another way it's very, it's just very hectic. But the foundation keeps us busy 24/7. And so we, when we go to speak, and we're getting ready, actually, as this airs out the next day, I have 2 presentations tomorrow in 2 different sides of the state. So it's going to be very interesting in the morning, and then getting to the other one by late afternoon. So yeah, we're staying busy. We're blessed that way. We're very grateful for the opportunity. So the foundation it's year round. It's not just one event a year or just trying to raise funds. We're not a fundraising nonprofit. We're a community-based kind of get things done nonprofit.
Well, I mean, I think it's great what you're doing. And now that you mentioned the prom thing, this really is a significant time of the year here, as some of these high school kids are approaching that event. I actually hadn't thought about that. So I could definitely see where it is very critical upcoming months for you and the foundation.
Yeah, because, and you and I have been there to prom season, and it's the Wahoo time. And if you're a senior, and now the juniors and now sophomores and freshmen go to prom. And so we have something, and if you go to the website, you'll see where we have Carrie's Promise. And it just simply says that you'll be cognizant of not being impaired or not letting someone else be impaired behind the wheel. And it's not just drinking. Impaired is impaired. So if you're distracted by the phone, it impairs your driving. If you're, medication or whatever the case. So this time of year is really, unfortunately, it really picks up for us because the message is there. But it's really cool because we connect with a lot of kids, and to get them when they tweet me after prom, and they literally say, "Hey, coach, no incidents. We had a great time." And you get them on Facebook and Instagram, and they're showing you pictures of the prom and that they had it. And that's the thing. Go have a good time. Just be safe and get home safe. And that how I close everything is, we want to be talking to you tomorrow, not about you. So it's that time of season now, from now until May, June, depending on where you are in the country, when they graduate and all those things start coming up. So it's going to get plenty busy.
And it kind of hits home to me when you're talking about this, because my senior year in high school, there was actually about 10 deaths in school from car wrecks.
Really?
Which, not an overly huge school either. So our senior year was plagued with wrecks of various different reasons. So yeah, I mean, this is, and it was all in the back half of the year here. So I mean, it's a significant thing, and I appreciate the work that you're doing.
Well, thank you, man. It's not. I always say it's not easy because it brings us back to the day that Carrie was taken, but it's necessary. So it's it's necessary, and I appreciate you saying that. And we'll always update everybody on the foundation, and everybody can go visit the website and, make sure they know what we're doing, or, follow us on social media as well. So that's cool.
I think it's important to start out with something like that because you're a good friend. I have a hell of a lot of respect for you. And some of the things that we're going to talk about are hard to talk about. On the Bill DeMott Experience today, we're going to talk about Tough Enough 3. And there are some moments in here that I think will be difficult for you.
Probably
looking back at it, being replaced from, it was 20 years ago. So yeah, I think, and I'm going to ask some hard-hitting questions for you.
Okay.
But I think that is what, at this point in where you're at in life, that's part of like what you're doing. You're giving back, and there's a lot of things involving this season that were significant for you in your future. And then of course, a lot of things happen that maybe weren't as highlighted in other seasons. They were highlighted in this one. I think that kind of difficult to swallow a little bit.
Yeah. This is going to be interesting.
Yeah. And at any point in time, if I just offend you, just say, no, I'm not going to talk about that.
It's hard to offend me. If you followed my career and all, you could definitely tell if I'm still smiling, it's hard to offend me.
Well, of course, it's not ever going to be out of offending you. That's not my intentions, at least.
No, I'm not worried about it. We're good.
We'll go ahead and kick it off here, though. So let's kind of touch up on season 2, what had happened before, because you weren't involved at that point in time, correct?
Right. It was so season 1 was Al and Taz, and I forget Jacqueline. Okay, so that were the 3 trainers. Then season 2, it was Al, Bob Holly, Chavo, I think.
Yep.
And then I'm not sure if there was a female trainer.
Ivory, was she on? But it was on too.
Maybe it was Ivory. To be honest, I'm not sure.
Yeah, actually, I know who it was. I just spacing her name. It was not Ivory, but I'm spacing her name. Blonde lady. I feel bad, but we're gonna move on so I don't embarrass myself anymore.
We'll come back to her. Oh, it was the one who was in DX, right? It was a short stint with Kane and Kid.
Short hair.
Yeah.
She had short hair on Tough Enough, yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm terrible with that stuff.
I know.
We'll come back to her for sure. So I forget where we were, and Al had approached me and said, "Hey, we do this show Tough Enough." I said, "Yeah, I know." And because I was my whole thing when I was at the arenas all day, you're there at like 11, 12 o'clock, by noon, and the show doesn't start till 8. So you have a lot of time. Either you spend it in catering, or at the time we were still playing dominoes and things like that, but a lot of it was spent in the ring. So I was a big fan, and still a big fan of getting in the ring, learning things, messing around with guys and girls, trying to learn some new stuff, show people stuff. So they came up to me and said, "Hey, we noticed you like to be in the ring, and we want to talk to you about maybe doing Tough Enough 3. I was like, wow, what does that entail? Because I'm trying to get, you're trying to get going in your career on TV as it is with WWF, and now they're going to take me completely off of TV for 3-4 months, ship me out to California. But I signed on to it because I like to train. So from what I knew about Tough Enough, I wasn't an avid follower of the show, but I knew of it and I knew what they were doing. So I said, yeah, I'd do it. And next thing you know, I'm in California for 4 months, and it kicked off. And they said, "Hey, we're just going to mic you up." And this is true reality TV. Reality TV back then was follow you 24 hours a day, mic you up. There's cameras everywhere. There's no scripts. There's no, hey, if we can make this happen. And that's where I said, you mic me up, and whatever's going to happen, you're going to have to edit it, because I only know how to beat Bill. I can't be politically correct, Bill. I can't be, like, when I'm training, I'll either bark or I'll whisper, or, there'll be a 4-letter word every now and again.
Yeah.
But it was just like everybody. So that's their job. And I learned very quickly that I didn't have to worry about that aspect of it. And they just said, you be you. So that's how that started. It started a conversation with Al. I met with John Gabork, who's big, and he said, "We'd love to have you." Next thing you know, I'm off TV, and I'm in I'm in California, starting to shoot Tough Enough 3.
So I'm going to kick this off here by season 2 thoughts here. And I think this is interesting, right? So in the cast, in the auditions of season 2, we see John Morrison doesn't make the cut, and it's later revealed because of Kevin Dunn. I thought was interesting. Of course, John Morrison comes back this season very strong.
Yep.
Shelly Mendez, she's a knockout champion, and then Awesome Kong, she was also in there and didn't make the cut. So I thought that was interesting just to go. The second season was a little bit different. Coming off the success of the first, they had a little bit of an ending that people thought was unfair in the sense that 2 females won.
Yeah.
Obviously, the situation's different in the next season. Oh, I did want to mention also that Shad, who recently passed away, saving his son's life, he actually made the cut of the second season, but failed a physical, and that's what was reported as drug test, I assume.
Yeah.
And then he's replaced. But he did make the cut on season 2, and I'm just covering this because this just shows you that some of these people did go on and have pretty successful careers. But yeah, 2 females won in season 2.
Yeah.
Kenny King was the runner-up, and my gosh, talk about a guy with a lot of talent.
Yeah, and I've said this from the jump, and I believe I said it during season 3. I've said it in the $1 Million Tough Enough. I said it in the one I did with Steve. I've said it in every training seminar and everywhere I've gone. The person who wins that thing is set to fail. You can't live up to that. You want a reality show based on professional wrestling. At the time, it wasn't sports entertainment, based on professional wrestling. And the most successful people that came out of those shows were the people who didn't make the cut. And it's funny to see. I always found it not funny, funny like odd, that the strongest personalities and the people that really wanted to be there were the ones that stayed with it. And we'll fast forward in season 3 to the ones who didn't do it, and even the $1 Million Tough Enough when we ever go down that rabbit hole. But there's guys and girls that got turned away who became very big in this industry and made a nice name for themselves and made a living. So Tough Enough was about being tough enough for that particular moment, for that show. It didn't define who you were, but we weren't there to explain that to people either.
Fair enough. And to be honest, this was a point in time on television cable when this reality series concept was huge, especially on MTV. The Real World, the challenges and stuff like they did like that was seeing pretty significant success. So this incorporated in with that to make a show.
Yeah, MTV, it was their season 3 was their strongest season and strongest ratings, and they wanted to own that show. And I wasn't privy to all the dynamics of the business part, but they wanted to own it. There's no way Vince was going to let them own that show. And, we disappeared for a couple of years, and then it was the $1 Million Tough Enough. So that's the history of Tough Enough. We would go a year, we'd be off 2 years, come back a year, 2 years later, 3 years later, 4 years later, because it was such a strong concept that every season that I was involved wasn't scripted. Let's fly, man. Just hold up. But I became a veteran after the third one. My first season, season 3, I was a veteran. And by the end of that one, I just told people, you do your job. You're an editor. You're a producer. You figure out what you're going to put on TV, because I know that you're not going to fit my 10-hour day into an episode. You're not going to fit 7 days out of that week into that 30-minute or 45-minute episode. So that was a learning experience for me too. But at that time, that was MTV's hottest thing going, was Tough Enough 3.
I am going to go through episode by episode and try not to take too long by doing so, but I did want to ask you, the dirt sheets reported that you had been in a motorcycle accident and were rehabbing, and and during this timeline, you were moved to training role.
Yeah.
Any truth to that?
No, I told you how I got the gig. I was in the ring.
I know. I
What
know.
had happened? So, and I wasn't in a motorcycle accident. What had happened is I was an avid bike rider, and I had a big old dressed out bike. And what happened was a car came in front of me, and I fishtailed in the gravel, and it threw me. Well, when it threw me, I was all rashed out and everything. So I went to the live events, and I was all bagged up. My legs were all screwy because in Florida, you're in shorts and your tennies and whatever. So I had road rash, and I got all banged up, and I was all bruised. And Jack Lanza, bless his heart, I love Jack Lanza, was the agent. He goes, "What the hell happened to you?" And Jack was a bike rider, so we were talking about it. But in his report, he was in a terrible bike accident, and I don't think he should be on the road and all that. So that got to the dirt sheets, but I never had a day off or anything from it. And I got the gig in Tough Enough. But it's funny to learn the aesthetics of that damn dirt sheets and what people can put, and it just gives people a perception of, well, he was hurt, so he was demoted to this. No, I was handpicked by John Gaborik, and then I have a funny story about how Hugh Morris got fired on Tough Enough 3.
Yeah, you can throw that in wherever you want. Like I said, I'm going to kind of go episode through episode and get your opinion here. But is it fair to say at least this was the beginning of your training journey?
This, for WWF, yes. Like I said, I did that in WCW when I was in Japan and when I was in Puerto Rico and Mexico, always training, but this was the official start of me becoming a trainer in that company. Yeah.
All right. We'll jump into it here. So season 3 airs in October 2002 on MTV.
Wow.
They kind of scaled back some with this season, Bill, as far as the extravagantness of the auditions and all that. They made it a little bit more regional. They were doing it at a hotel, you could see, more personable, but yet scaled back start to this season.
Yeah, when I first came in, I didn't come into the process until the final 25. And then we had a week with the final 25 to get to our 15, I think it was the number. I could be wrong. I don't know if it was 12, 15, or
13, yeah.
13, something like that. But so I didn't come in till the week of 25. And then the 25 all met in this warehouse in Calabasas, California. And so that was Hell Week. We were gonna take the 25 and whittle it down to the people who are going to be on that show. When I say Hell Week, that was Hell Week. That was boot camp, start to finish. Let's find out who you are, and that's where everybody, the trainers, we got I knew Al Snow, Al knew me, I knew Ivory knew me, but we didn't know each other in that capacity. So there was a lot of get to know you time from the trainers. Let's see who does what, and let's see who has what kind of knowledge and things like that. But that initial week for me, that was a great warm-up for what was about to happen for the season. I needed that to understand the dynamic.
Take it all in.
The filming, and okay, this is, here's how we're gonna literally break it down from 25 to 15 or 13 or whatever it is.
So I want to get your thoughts on a couple different things real quick, and we'll go through the first episode. We're going to go episode by episode, but working with MTV, from your experience, Bill, how was it?
In the beginning, it was a little much. They were like, hey, we can't get that shot. Can you stand here? Or, hey, do you think you could say that again? And my answer was no, because I don't know what I said in the first place. And so that we had a very quick understanding of you're gonna have to do work here, because I was sent here to do this job. I wasn't sent here to do it over and over again. And and here's where it's going to sound really cocky. You want gold, you follow me and you edit what you want on TV. Because if you're asking me can you say that again and have more feeling? You got the wrong guy. Or, hey, the shadows are then you move your stuff. So when they were setting up, they knew where they had to start taking breaks and, okay, we need to change film and stuff like that. But when they called break, we didn't break. When they broke, that's on them. The only time we broke every day was from lunch or if we were driving to a location to do a training thing in the hills, or, a different challenge. That's the only time we broke. And then at the end of the day, I took my microphones off and went to my little studio apartment they set me up in. But I learned very quickly with MTV, and they were all good people, but they thought they were going to make it their show. And in my mind, this was a WWF production, and we were going to do it the WWF way. I felt like I was very protective of the business and not, lack of a better term, catering to, hey, what if we did this? That's on you, dude. And then Al and I were on the same page with that, and Ivory and Big. And that's where Big, he was the liaison between MTV people and WWF. We didn't have to worry about that stuff. Like, you mic me up and you follow me. And they were upset with me the first couple weeks because I was breaking mics left and right until I didn't want to wear a mic pack anymore because it was just hampering my physicality.
I see what you're saying, though. You're actually peeling back the curtain here, you as in the company, and letting them in. So the mindset should be more catered towards that. I'm sure you weren't the only person. I don't know how Vince felt, but you're kind of peeling back the curtain, like I said. So there had to be some hesitation there from the pro wrestling standpoint, because he hadn't quite seen anything like this per se before. The series.
I didn't know what Vince. To be honest, I didn't know. I met Kevin Dunn a bunch of times. I didn't really have a lot of interaction with Kevin before this, and the same with Vince. I'd spoken to Vince. I've been in Vince's office, but it was wrestling work, so I wasn't sure. All I knew was John. Big was the guy. He was the guy I answered to every day. And Al and I would go through what we were going to train on, or what we were, where we're trying to lead it to, and build their knowledge and their being tough enough through the whole thing. So that wasn't my concern. Like, I truly was not concerned about anything but making sure that I did my job and not letting anybody steer me off of that direction. Like, I was dug in pretty tight about that.
You mentioned Kevin Dunn. This is the rare occurrence these couple years here where you got to see him physically. Not very common to see him.
Yeah, you didn't see a lot of him throughout the years, but there'd be times.
You have a good relationship with Kevin Dunn. He seems like an individual that you could either really get along with or really not get along with. That's just from outside looking in.
Here's what I liked about KD. He lets you know right away if he liked you or if he didn't like you. But if he didn't like you, but you were good for the business and you make money and you had a great character, it didn't matter how he felt about you. He was business. The funny thing about the first real conversation we had was they fired me on the phone. They called, they're in a film break. When we got down to the final, like I said, I'll say 15, but it could have been 12, 13, whatever it was. So they were changing film, and Big called for a stop because he needed to see me in the office, in the back office. Well, on the speakerphone was Kevin Dunn. And unbeknownst to me, sitting next to him was Vince.
Huh.
And they said, listen, we saw, I say hell week, they saw the week of getting ready to get down to the final number for the show. And they just don't think that this Hugh Morris thing's going to work out. So we're going to have to let him go. And this is over a speakerphone. So Big is looking at me like he's in shock. And I'm standing there going, I've been in California now for 2 weeks. In my mind, I'm busting my butt. I think I'm killing it. I think I'm setting this up to be a great experience. And they just told me Hugh Morris is fired. And then there's this quiet pause. So everybody was quiet. And he goes, but if you could be Bill DeMott, like we've seen on the tapes, because they saw everything every day. They got the recordings. He goes, but we want Bill DeMott. Can you be Bill DeMott every day? And I'm looking at Big, and he starts laughing. I'm going, I don't understand what's going on here. They go, we want Bill DeMott. Can you be that guy every day? I'm like, done. I took a deep breath, and it's funny because I think in one of the episodes, Big comes out and says, well, things happen in this business. They happen quick, and Hugh Morris is no longer your trainer. Half those damn kids stood up and cheered because I got fired. And then he said, let me introduce you to the new trainer. And they're looking around, they're waiting for his guy. He goes, Bill DeMott. And they all went, oh, no. And so to me, that was the greatest introduction into the Tough Enough series. And I like, once I got over the initial shock of it later that night, I was very proud of that fact. They go, hey, just be yourself. And that's what they got. Times 10 when the red light was on, you know. But that was my first true interaction with KD until I went back to TV.
You were in spectacular shape. You had you must have been getting in a tanning bed every day, it looked like. You were, my point being is you were in prime condition here.
Yeah. We're in California. So any chance you got, or you're out by the pool or you're in the sun, and back then I'd walk around with no shirt on and all that stuff. And I really took it to heart because I was in good shape. I was in ring shape anyway. And so I had more time to, it was definitely less bumps and less wear and tear and less travel because now I'm in the same building every day. So I had that, and there was a gym in the warehouse we were in. So I got to just work on myself, and I had a side bet with JR. And JR said for every 10 pounds I lost, he was going to bonus me. So I just was getting in better shape because when this series was over, I was going back to work.
Right.
So we same with Alan Ivy, we had to do our schedule. We had to be in the gym at 6 o'clock in the morning to be on set at 8. So
how was JR in that role, the management role, talent relations?
I loved it. I mean, Jim's always been a straight shooter. He doesn't mince words. He doesn't coddle you, and he doesn't rub your head and tell you it's going to be all right. Excuse my language, but it's really shit or get off the pot. And here's what we expect from you. And if you can do it, right on it. If you can't, the train keeps rolling. But I have, to this day, I have a great relationship with JR. I think the world of him personally and professionally. So it was cool. I got to know a lot of people in a different light when I signed on for the Tough Enough. So I think the kids thought they were in for an experience, but I had quite the experience that season. I learned a lot more about the company, the ins and outs, and what was truly expected of individuals. So
walk me through. You already talked about Big John, as we'll call him. I'll call him Big the remaining throughout this episode, because also John John Morrison, we'll say, is also John. So he'll go by Big regardless here. But you had a good relationship with him, it sounds like. What about Al Snow and Ivory?
Uncle Al, to this day, he's my man all day long. And contrary to what people thought, we had a chemistry that we didn't have to speak about. We had an understanding, and I'll say this, and I'm stuck here. Sorry, let me fix my chapeau. He's the bad cop. I was the good guy. Till this day, he's got to be 72 years older than me. I'm still the young guy. I'm still, I'm the baby face and he's the heel. We hit it off, because I knew who he was, and I appreciated and respected the way he took training and how he took towards the business and what he expected from himself and others. So, and then Ivy was the crazy stepsister. She was, she's an animal lover, and she had to have cats with her all the time, and she was looking for cats and doing all these things. But Buddy, when it got time to get physical and get down and dirty and do work, she was there. But she was the crazy stepsister, and the three of us gelled so well. It just was seamless. It was a pleasure every day. It wasn't like, oh man, I said it on my end. I hope it was for them too, because I never once went, she's out, but I have to deal with Ivory today, or if Al's in this kind of mood, this day's going to suck. No, we just clicked. And if you can do that for 4 months, every day for 4 months, and maintain those relationships 20 some odd years later, there's something to that. But it was truly a pleasure.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, Al Snow still to this day is a great resource with training, and have a hell of a lot of respect for the guy. And I could tell you did as well. And it seemed like to me, it was the first time he almost found his Batman Robin, compared to the first 2 seasons. But when you came on, he seems like he kind of had that sidekick, that right-hand man in you. You could kind of see that chemistry through the screen.
I think he had Taz the first season. Taz is this way.
Yep.
Taz not gonna, he's not gonna share a burrito with you. He's not gonna, sit and have a cigar with you and tell a story after. This is Taz. Yep. This is Bob Holly. This is Bill DeMott. But when we're done working, you got the other Bill DeMott. We knew the difference of when we were on and when we were off. And what helped Al and I connect at the time, we were both going through personal issues at home. So we had something in common, and we could lean on each other. So we literally had each other to go through not only this 4 months away from our kids and these issues we're having personally, but we had someone who understood that. And I hope I was as big as a crutch for him as he was for me, because we got each other through it. And then we became thick as thieves, and we were, they absolutely, at a time when they figured they couldn't control us, they got on board and they said, whatever Bill and Al are going to do, let's run with it. And we terrorized those kids. We terrorized the house. We did what we wanted, but we worked at the same time. And I have nothing but love for Al. He's very close to my family. He's been with me through a lot of things, as I have with him, and like I said, till this day. But he's a wealth of knowledge. He has what I really appreciate about him is he doesn't sway from his training ideals and how he likes to see things done and what he wants to accomplish.
That's a hell of a compliment. And I big Al Snow fan myself. I actually love when he is on with Vince Russo. His sense of humor, his knowledge put together is just spectacular. The guy is a creative and then also mechanical as far as technician on wrestling, genius. So we'll have to get him on here one day and talk about one of these Tough Enoughs.
He's great, man. I love Al.
Yeah, like I said, we'll get him on here one day and have him talk Tough Enough with us. But let me jump into the episode here. So let's talk about people that didn't make it into the past the top 75. Sean Daivari, right, goes on, has a career in wrestling. And then Daniel Pruder, which he won the next season. Daniel has been very critical of you throughout the years, Bill. The thing that upset me is when he made the drinking comment about you guys got in an altercation and he said you could beat me up if it's because I don't drink with you afterwards or something. He said like that. Then he mentioned karma. Is he a difficult guy to work with? Because it seems like everything that I've seen, he could be difficult.
I don't find him, like, here's the thing, and I think you and I have talked about this offline. Like, you're not going to hear me say something derogatory about someone. Here's the thing with Pewter. He had a mindset. He's a special kind of cat from his background and all that stuff. And I say special because he had a mindset. He is of the... he's under the guise that his way's the right way and this is the way you do things. And he was a supreme athlete and is a superior mind and all these things. And he wasn't ready to differ from that. So he told everybody, you want to hate me and beat me up if that's what you got to do. But this is who I am. And we saw what happened with him and Kurt Angle and all these things. Like, he didn't understand what he was there to do, in my opinion. But I have nothing but respect for him. I mean, he's trash talked me for years, but I have this giant mural he gave me and signed this big message to me about what an experience he had. So I think when he has to portray, I think he portrays himself a certain way to people, and that's his deal. He was a good athlete. He wasn't coachable. And I don't mean he wasn't coachable in MMA or whatever else he wanted to do. And I know he's a motivational speaker now, where he does things, he works with people, and good for him. But you can't play both sides against the middle. You can't be that guy and then be another guy. And we weren't trying to do anything to anybody except get the best out of them. Well, he thought he was the best and there was no more to give. And so while everybody went out, and yes, so we're perfectly clear, there were a bunch, and you saw the episodes, whether it was $1 Million Tough Enough or the other one, let's go out and have a few beers with these guys and all this stuff. And on TV, they get to paint the story any way they want.
Yeah.
No one was ever in jeopardy of over drinking and all these other things. You knew this kid could have 2 beers and a cigarette and be bombed. And for TV purposes, that's what they wanted to see. Well, Peter at the time, well, I don't do that. And this way, if you got to beat me up, and okay, if you want to break my thumb, if that's what makes you feel like a tough guy. That's not what it was about. So I don't really think he understood from the jump what it was about. He literally took the terms tough enough. He didn't want to be a WWE superstar. He didn't want to be a WWF superstar. He came there to win a competition. He wasn't prepared for what that competition was for. And that's just my opinion. And if it comes across in a bad way, I don't know how else to say it. He heard tough enough. I'm in. I'm tough enough. I'm better than everybody here. But that's,
set the record straight here. When I'm asking you these kind of questions, it's not more or less to get, this is for the people listening, not to get you to talk shit about somebody, because I know you won't, but it's important to me, having the respect I do for you. You've gone years with no sort of rebuttal on anything.
Silence.
And that's not the purpose of this, but what the purpose of it is to kind of clear the light of the situation. And I could see where on television or when he is probably goaded into saying things, and I can understand that. We've seen that. We talked about a few episodes ago with Kenny Omega and a lot of those guys.
Yeah.
They get put, and Daniel was probably put in a situation like that, and he said what he said. But the intent here was not to fire back at him. It's just to get the record straight.
Yeah. There was no ill will. There was no, I'm going to show this kid that I'm big, tough, and I'm a WWE superstar, and I'm the trainer, and you're going to do. No, that wasn't it. But his persona and what he wanted people to perceive him as, he came into that already. He knew what he was going to do regardless. He didn't. I don't think he made a lot of best friends in that. Thing, that $1 Million Tough Enough. And, to this day, I think he has more negatives to say about everybody than positives, but that's his take on it. But for me, there was no ill will, and there is none now. And so when people say those things, and because he's been boisterous for years, and as a person, it's hurtful, because that's what you got out of that experience.
Not to mention, you just mentioned that mural he gave you. I mean,
this is what you got from me. Then you weren't really you weren't really involved. You were just there. It's that it's that thing, and everybody has a different perception. Probably he's one of maybe 3 or 4 in my 30 years that would, go and bash me for things that I had nothing to do with. So, I mean, everybody has their niche and what they have to do. And to that point, that's what got him noticed. So if I can say more things, then I'll get more interviews, and I'll get more TV time, and I'll get more of these things. But at the end of the day, it wasn't a fit for him. It wasn't about being tough. That was just the name of the show. It was about who could be a WWF superstar, WWE superstar. But I'm glad he's doing the work he's doing. I know he works with kids, and I hope he continues to do that and give that message out. And maybe someday he'll understand that nobody was out to get him. But if you don't let us in your kitchen, and I say it all the time, if you don't let me sit down in your kitchen and make myself something to eat, we're never going to be on the same page. If you're going to fight it the whole time. And he had words with Al. He had words with everybody under the sun. So I wasn't like I was a unique character. I was just the easiest target, because if you look at Tough Enough made my persona. because people judged me by what they saw on Tough Enough. They never got to know me. Even as a trainer, they went, "Oh crap, it's him," because you watched the show. So
it carried over to NXT. Yeah,
I always say, good for me. I did my job, and if that's what happens, that's what happens.
Hang with me here. I think we're gonna have a two-parter here. This is going to go on. What's one more thing to note? Melina didn't make the final 13.
Yeah, I absolutely. Again, till this day, if we see each other, it's a big hug. I think she's a tremendous young woman. And when she was there, everything she was doing was right, but she was getting hurt. We were so concerned that she was going to wind up physically doing something bad to herself because she was like a baby deer. She had the heart, but she was unsafe. And we told her that. Talk about a success story. You got cut from the final 25. We're told that you can't physically do this. And she became one of the biggest divas in the history of the business. And so every time I saw her, to me, that's a win because we saw that time wasn't right for her. It doesn't mean the business wasn't right or she was no good, but we were trying to get this done. And if we were going to get that done, it's not worth you getting hurt permanently. And unless I've missed something in the past 20 some odd years, I don't believe she's ever had a harsh word about me. I think she's a tremendous young lady and she's a success. And to me, that's what the show is supposed to be for. Who can make it? Who really wants to be there in the business? She wanted to be there. She got cut. She was brokenhearted. We got to spend time with her off air, when she got to say goodbye to everybody after that day was over. What a tremendous young lady then, and now what a great young woman she is. Success story.
Beautiful, amazingly talented, charismatic. Just went on to do great things. You're absolutely correct.
Yeah, she did great things, man.
So chat me up here.
When I reconnected at OVW, it was great.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. We'll get into that one day for sure. So I got to ask you about this guy here. Al Snow seemed to have a lot of faith in this Wendell fella. I just have to know, Bill, because watching it, this seems so damn overly dramatic. This guy's faking a heart attack and a stroke. Al Snow's getting him medically checked on. Nothing's wrong with him. Is this real?
He played Al. I didn't like Wendell from the jump. Like I always say I have that Jersey attitude about me. You give me 5 or 10 minutes with someone, I feel like I got a pretty good read on them, in or out of wrestling. That's just the way I feel. That's just my personality. But he kept, everything was so dramatic and so this, because there was cameras everywhere you looked. He was going to be on a TV show. That's what he was there for. And he played Al for as long as he could. And I think I helped get Al to the point where he had enough. And when Al snapped, it was great. My heart was full. I was like, this is the guy I've been waiting for, because instead of being Uncle Al, everybody's pal, and that's the thing. He was the nurturing one. Let me get you there. And I was this guy. Get there. But that Wendell, he pissed in Al's Cheerios one too many times. And when Al got in his face, lifted him off the ground, and then threw him out the door.
Yeah.
It was, I don't remember a lot of things about Tough Enough 3. I'll never forget that, because that was one of my best days I ever had on set, was watching Al finally snap and then bust his chops for the next week about it.
He snapped, and that was my question. Was he actually doing this? This was not scripted. This guy was just acting like a fool like that in front of the camera.
Every time there was a camera, he went down, literally, because they had handhelds, and they'd go, and as we're on the mats and doing these things, and they'd zoom in and all this, and he'd purposely slow down, or he'd do all this stuff, and he had a heart attack, and then he had a second wind, and then he couldn't breathe, and then he needed a drink, and then he had to stop, and Al just couldn't take it. And maybe there was a little needling from Big, maybe Ivory was needling Al a little bit, maybe Coach Bill was in Al's ear a little bit, but Al had just had enough. And buddy, when I saw that, I promise you, I hope Wendell's well. I don't know what became of him, because I don't ever wish anything bad, but he had that coming, and Al exploded, and it took him 2 days to come down from that. And I would just poke the bear every morning. Wendell's back.
Told you so.
It's Wendell coming back.
I can see you doing
my
that. My
gosh, if you get Al to talk about it today, he'll just start making the face and he'll blow up.
Love that. So yeah, that happened. That was real. That's nice to know.
Yeah,
so
it was amazing.
Jim Ross spoke to them, and he had a quote that I loved here. He said, "If you can't get over the fear of impact, you're not going to make it. It won't be because Al Snow didn't like you. It'll be because you aren't good enough."
Yeah, that's
boom.
There it is. That's JR in a heartbeat, and he's telling you like, if you don't make it, it's not because of the 3 people standing in front of you. It's because you just don't have what it takes at that time. And JR would say that to this day. He doesn't tell you ain't got it. You just don't have it now. But we're looking now. And if you can't take a couple bumps and bruises and a couple, sweats and your legs getting noodly, because realistically, we all went through that when we got in this business. And we didn't have somebody giving us a water break or doing these things. And it wasn't the point of punishing people. Let's see where's your heart? Where's your, where are you at and what are you willing to do? Because, oh, by the way, if you make it through this, there's 300 days like this every day.
Yeah.
So
this is another thing I really liked about the show in general. For me, it's the little things, right? So let's talk about taking bumps and then how to get up correctly. I mean, Bill, that's something I had never thought of. So it makes perfect sense, though. You don't want somebody to step on your damn fingers. You don't want something to happen to you. So even to break it down to how you need to get up was kind of eye-opening to me, and I enjoyed that little segment there.
And we'll go back to it. So we saw that part on TV, but you didn't see the 7 days of literally breaking it down from move to move to move. You saw the highlights of hands getting stepped on, me dropping on someone, me shooting down on someone because they wouldn't do it, getting a knee to the head or whatever the case, or tripping them up. That's what you saw, because we went through painless hours, step by step, as a group, then individually. And so they get to take the pieces that are exciting for that 45-minute episode. So it really painted the picture. I think to your point, I think it enlightened people a little bit to what it was. But for the TV aspect, it was gold. Anything we did turned to gold, because it was hours upon hours of doing this. And now you got to put it into a 3-minute segment, so that's when the personalities came out, because now people are starting to follow Jonah, or they're starting to follow Johnny Blaze, or they're starting to follow Eric or Jamie or Kelly, right? They started to get, here's where you start to get attached to them. Well, they're working so hard, but they can't get it. And Bill hates this one and Al loves this one. But we spent 6-7 days doing the same thing over and over. And by the time we ask you to do it, if you don't get it right, we got to move on and make an example out of it.
Next segment, it shows a skills challenge. They go out on a bike ride in a very hilly terrain. John seemingly just destroys the competition, to be honest with you. And then there's an individual named Scott who it's his first time riding a bike.
Hey, man, that was his first time riding a bike. Somewhere in that season, he's from Virginia. He never saw the ocean. He's never been in the ocean. We made him swim. He never did this. He never did that. He collected dirt from everywhere he's been just to show that he was like somewhere different in the state or whatever. That guy, Scott, when you're 20 years old and you've never ridden a bike,
yeah,
we literally taught him how to swim, how to ride a bike, how to cut his steak, how to tie his shoes. He went on to be a producer, a big muckety muck for a long time in VH1.
Oh,
because of his interaction with TV and stuff, he got involved in TV after that. But Scott was such a good-hearted guy, but he was the goof of the bunch.
Yeah.
So you put this together and you couldn't script it. He was a straight goofy kid. He had no life experience. but he just kept getting up. He had moments, I can't even say he had moments of brilliance. He had moments of, I don't know, normalcy, but he was a character all the way through. But he made the others get better because they did not want to get the Scott treatment. So the other had to pay attention. So he was the rabbit in the race, you know. He was the one. And then later on, before he was cut, you see where he started to step up a little bit. So it all paid off. But him on that bike, when I tell you, what you saw was X amount of minutes. You're on that hill for 5 hours in the sun trying to get this hootenanny up a freaking hill. They had the guys on the bike and pushing him, and he wouldn't put his feet on the pedals. I think Johnny Blaze went back down the hill 3 different times with his bike and rode it up with him. I mean, it was brutal.
And throughout this, Al Snow is shown on a little red scooter. Cracked me up.
He's on the Vespa the whole time.
I saw that and I thought, I got to bring this up.
The best part was every time they didn't see me, they thought they were in the clear. Well, I'm at the end. There's Uncle Al on the Vespa, right? And they were a sponsor, so they loved Al on the Vespa. And he's up and down, and he parked on the side, and he just wait and then zoom past them and come back and drinking the water in front of him and all this. I mean, a lot of this stuff was pure comedy, but it was eye-opening to me because I never met anybody before who never knew how to ride a bike. And then you had to get him to ride the bike uphill.
Yeah, now swimming's one thing, right? But riding a bike, that's... Yeah.
Oh, God, bless his heart.
So we do get the decision made here. We're going to go with Chad, Eric, Jamie, Jill, John, Nick, Justin, Kelly, Lisa, Matt, Rebecca, Jonah, Scott. Then you introduce them to their, I'm going to say, real world like television show from that show, Home. That's their home, and that's episode 1 there. Who had a say in all these people making it through? Because when you think about a Scott, they needed him in that group to grow.
Yeah.
Like, you made up some very solid points, but he wasn't the most talented of some of the people that got cut.
Yeah, but he had heart. He didn't stop. He wasn't going to get hurt with what he was doing, but he was going to be the rabbit. So if lack of a better term, so if he was going to be the low man in the totem pole, no one could be beneath that, and all he could do was rise. And so, in my opinion, that's and because we all had a say in who made it, and so that's the other thing I think people don't. Oh, they must have went. No, they went through it. That hell week before. They went through it and they made it on their own. There he goes. It's just my dog. There's both my dogs. They made it on their own accord. They made it on their effort and their personalities and things like that. But Scott was such a Steve Urkel-esque kind of guy compared to a Johnny Blaze.
Yeah.
That you had to have him. That dynamic was going to be great when you put those 13 in a house, because he was awkward in life, not just in wrestling. He was awkward in life. And the dynamic was great. He was awkward around girls. He didn't know how to talk to girls. He didn't know how to act around other guys. He was very...
Yeah. And we'll touch up on that as we go here.
I'm going to be up all night thinking about this stuff now because...
Well, you're going to be up all night recording it because we're an hour in on recording. We're on episode 1, so...
I forgot all about this stuff, man. We're going to have like 6 episodes just on Tough Enough 3.
If you get tired at any point and you need to go because you have a big day tomorrow, let me know and we'll figure out how to record more. But
yeah, we're good for a couple 10 more minutes or whatever you want to do. But now I'm actually
I'm good all night, Bill. I'm worried about you. I can do this all night.
It's coming back to me. I'm going, holy crap.
So like I said, at any point in time you got to go, you tell me because I will literally do this all night.
We'll go 10 more minutes and then we'll pick it up from there.
Gotcha. Episode number 2 kicks off. I thought this was a really neat moment when they're spray painting their names on the wall.
Yeah.
And later that comes into play and we'll touch up on it, but that was cool to me.
That was, and again, it was, we were in a warehouse. It was a converted warehouse. It was just a big empty
did they
warehouse.
buy it for that? Did they buy it for that, Bill?
Yeah, they had it. So I don't know if they leased it for that whole time or whatever they did. It was in the middle of an industrial park. We were the end warehouse in that. And I thought that was a really cool moment when they got to put their names. And I think they really took that as a badge of honor that they get to put their names on there, because later on, as we'll talk about it, a lot of those names didn't stay up there, and it got
Correct.
very real. It got very real for them because they were the ones who put their names on there.
Yeah, exactly. They had to coach Scott on how to do it better. Moment. You had to coach Scott on how to do it better, but nevertheless, he got his name fixed.
Christmas. Man, I don't know where he is, and I hope someone who's following us and going to stay in touch with the podcast, if anybody knows where Scott is, please have him call in or touch base with us, because I think he's great, man. I'd love to see how he's doing and what he's doing in life, because I'm just going to think about him all night now and just laugh in the middle of the night, because he was hysterical. But it was him. It's who he was. You could see, we talked about that. The other cat, Wendell, he was a dramatic stooge. He was doing that stuff on purpose. Scott was the real deal. That's who he was, and that's why he made it, because, hey, let's see how good we are, and can we turn this guy into a WWF superstar?
If you're out there, Scott, email us at BillDeMottPod@gmail.com. So another Scott moment here, Bill.
Okay.
They start taking bumps, right? So the concept of this is they're going to come up to the trainers. You guys are on all fours. They're going to press off. You go over, you take the bump. Scott botches this over and over again. At one point, he botches it really bad, and you tell him, you get physical, and you tell him you don't want your career to end early because he is a dumbass. Yeah. And you later called him the human cartoon. He was struggling with this.
So it goes back to what I said. We spent hours on this, and we tried to not spend days on it. So we spent the whole hours on it the whole day, so we wouldn't have to do it the next day. He kept kicking me he kneed me in the face. He'd punch me in the ribs. He'd hold on to my arm on the way over. Everybody else is now chiming in and mad at him. And I kept telling him, and I'd lean on him and I'd whisper and I'd let him know, you're going to get me angry.
And you could tell you legitimately were. It was a different mode. You could see it in your eyes.
Oh, yeah.
You could see your muscles tense up. You were legitimately like, what the hell are you doing, man?
Yeah, in my office, there's a doll Mattel made for me, and one of the quotes is, "I'm not going to end my career early because you're a dumbass." And it comes right from Scott. He just could not figure out what to do with his body. And it was after a while, it's like, there's no way you can't understand this. We have girls, and not to say that girls can't do it, but girls who had no experience in this whatsoever, never done this, and it's all new to them too. We had big guys like Justin and Chad were big guys, big tall kids, lanky kids, and here's the smallest guy there, and he's kneeing me and hitting me and elbowing me, and I just had enough. And I on a numerous amount of occasions while he was on the show, I thought, I'm going to take you out back and no one's ever going to see you again, because it was frustrating to spend that much time with someone and still I'm the one getting hurt.
And that's what the people may not know that are listening to this, right? This wasn't some 10-minute segment. This was frustration built up over days, and you can see it come out.
It was, and the funny part was he did it to Ivory. Wouldn't get down on all fours for him.
I'm sure
she wasn't going to do it, and Al told him straight up, "If you do it to me," and then those two started poking me. Hey, Bill, you just can't get him to do it. So now I'm getting revved up. And every time he did something, he was kneeing me or laying his body weight on me. And he wasn't a heavy guy. It wasn't like I couldn't hold him. It was annoying. After 6 hours, it's like Chinese water torture, right? The drop just keep hitting me in the forehead, and it was making me crazy, and I just snapped. And again, it made for great TV.
Yeah.
But the hours, the painstaking time to get him to learn that one thing was atrocious.
Big has a moment here where Jill, who's been complaining about her wisdom teeth, just recently pulled a couple of days before. Big has this moment where this was a really interesting technique, and I've never practiced it in a management role that I've been in. She's complaining about her wisdom teeth, basically telling him she can't go on. Big is absolutely pissed off and offended by this, reasonably so. there's a lot of more people that wanted to be there, obviously more than her. He sits her down in front of a chair, in front of the group, calls her, she conned him, she conned the group, she's a liar. He said, if you spit on me, I spit on you. Get up and leave. Al goes over, and he paints over her name on the wall. Jill's gone.
There was a budding romance going on. And right, so here's where I'll probably get in trouble. But here was the budding romance, and Jill fell for one of the other cast members. And
that was noted. It was Jonah, correct? And Jonah was in a relationship. This was noted right off the bat. Yes, you won't get in trouble. This was noted.
At the time when they had visitors, his girlfriend came.
Yeah.
And so there was this big thing. So she was just trying to find ways, and it wasn't for her. She got duped by a man, by a boy, and she was made the fool. And so she, her wisdom teeth hurt. And Big was mad because we just talked about Melina being let go. There were so many other women that wanted an opportunity. She had it. And because it wasn't going and she couldn't live in the same house and they couldn't get along, and Jonah was just a big ass anyway. So he didn't care about her feelings or anything, but truly it wasn't for her. And it was a little bit of foreshadowing to what happens on the road a little bit with superstars. Sometimes there's relationships and they don't work out and you got to keep going. But yeah, Big was supremely upset with that one in particular because
that was the most upset I think I've seen him get during those first 3 seasons.
Yeah, because she made it. She went through X amount of weeks or whatever it was. And like I said, all this training and time was put into her. And then she goes, I can't be here. And he put her on Front Street and kicked her the hell out. And to your point, when that name went off, it got real.
Yeah, you can see it in the room. It got real. And that's how the episode ends. They're teasing Scott. Let's knock out one more episode here, Bill.
Okay.
And this is a good one. Previous episode, like we were talking about, ends them talking about Scott, his shenanigans. Episode 3 kicks off with everyone talking about Scott and his shenanigans. Then Jonah and Matt make this bet. I think Matt put his hair on the line, and he kind of goaded Jonah. He sat back during this race and waited till the end, then just blew him out of the water because he was running a marathon, basically. Yeah. And they obviously Jonah's a little bit defeated, but then it transitioned to a scene where he's actually mimicking you. He has the headband on in the corner. It seems like it's a little bit more lighthearted at this moment. They're doing drills together, enjoying it. He's teasing you. You're just sitting in your corner taking it all in. You could tell you did think it was funny.
It was great because people are watching an episode and going, this is tremendous. Look at them knocking Bill. What I was thinking was, look how much they paid attention.
Yeah.
Because while they're drilling and while they're doing these things, they're watching everything I do. I mean, he nailed me. He got me down. He was sitting on the bottom turnbuckle and the whole thing and do it, with the bandana. So while it was very funny, it was lighthearted because you need those moments in training. And like I said, we're doing this 10 hours a day.
He
5
brought
and
a lot
6
of those
days
moments.
And so those moments are great. But for me, it meant a lot because that meant they were paying attention, and I had an impact on them, whether it was good, bad, or indifferent, I had an impact on them. So those moments they needed, and that's how that group continued to bond, because they knew the one thing they had in common now was it was them against us.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And at certain points throughout the whole series, you see that come into play. But when we had those jovial moments, those were really cool, and I appreciate it because that was funny. He nailed me. He had me down to a T.
We'll see this, and we'll talk about this more next time as we go through the other episodes. But you and him, I had a love-hate relationship because of his tendency to not know when to execute those moments and when not to. Yeah. And that comes into play not just with you, but across the board. Yeah. So moving on here, they go out that night. They have a competition of who can get the most women numbers. Scott wins, which I thought was fascinating.
Tremendous. He became he kept endearing himself So we get to, Al and I, Ivory and I would come in the next morning and they would catch us up. Like no one said, hey, you're going to see this. We heard it as they brought it to us. And he kept endearing himself to us because he was going to try, his awkward as it was, like he was the guy that the girls gravitated to him because it was such a terrible thing. You have these studs and these good looking kids and you got Scott tagging along, but he was making his mark. And, yeah, it was great. And I think, like I said, that was the bonding thing for those guys because I think they really started to protect Scott in a lot of ways. And at the same time, it's like, I can make fun of my brother, but you can't. And so I know when they went out, they had his back and all that stuff, but it was really funny to see those dynamics. And he did come back with the most numbers.
This is the episode, you're right, when it starts out, we're teasing Scott, we're even calling Scott a little bit annoying. And by the end of it here, this starts to form this image, like you're saying. He also hurts his thumb playing beach volleyball, which would totally be his luck. That's Scott.
You're gonna keep me up all night. I'm gonna be up reliving this all night because he was just. It was literally one thing after another, and just when so was it 2 steps forward, 17 and a half steps back. That's the way he kept going.
The last thing we'll talk about here for episode 3 is this story right here has gone quite underground viral online throughout the years. It's about Lisa. So I'm curious to get your honest opinion on this. Let me read through what's reported. So
okay.
This is my synopsis right here. Poor Lisa isn't enjoying this much. I'm taking notes as I'm watching this, by the way. When they come back, she's gone from the house. And they're just told that she got stressed out, basically, and wrestling wasn't for her. So, but this is how the story goes on, Bill. And I'm going to read through all of this here. Hear me out. Then you tell me what you know to be truth or not.
Okay.
So, it's being said that while all of you are out, the trainer contestants at dinner, Lisa, who stayed behind, ended up having a psychotic breakdown, started throwing herself into the walls, made her way into the control room, started destroying MTV's equipment, making her way out through the house, destroying things, and then she might find her way up to the roof, and the producers have to talk her off of the roof, and then her parents come to get her. She says she didn't know who they are. She starts actually physically assaulting them, and at some point over the next few days, when they go to travel back home, they go to LAX to fly home, she escapes. She has the whole wing shut down because everybody's looking for her in the airport. Then there's some more to this, Bill. Maybe you can attest to this. So, sometime later, she shows up at OVW and claimed Al Snow and WWE had sent her there for further training, which that is untrue. Lisa then found her way backstage at several WWE live events, helping set up pyro with the technicians. At one point, she even had a face-to-face conversation with Vince, with him not knowing who she is. Eventually, security catches on to who she is. Is any of this true, or chat me up here?
Every bit of that is true with so many pieces missing in between. Every bit of that is absolutely 100% true.
Bill, she seemed normal. She seemed like she was doing decent. She wasn't doing awful.
She went from, and she was I think soccer was her thing. She was a good soccer player. She was an athlete. Yeah. She was going through things pretty good. And you could see something, right? You could see frustration here and there, but you didn't see it. And they went out one night. The kids went out one night, and she didn't go out. Now, when they're doing their thing, Al's in his studio, I'm in my studio, Lisa's in her, Ivory's in hers.
So you're there when it happens?
No, we're not there. We're nowhere to be found. All of a sudden, you get a phone call where she had, I guess, to the point, like, and I'll probably be scattered in it, to the point where she was in the control room. She had one of the producers off his feet up against the wall. Like superhuman strength off his feet.
Huh.
Then she was on the roof, and they had to talk her off. That's when Big got involved. And she overpowered Big.
Wow.
And he's no small cat.
No.
So she kind of went off the deep end. They finally got her. my understanding was she was at UCLA for a couple of days in the, and I'm going to make light of it, but it's not, but she was in the wackadoo ward for a couple of days till her parents came. Her parents came, she escaped from the airport, took their passport, she stole a rental car and disappeared. Well, she showed up at OVW. She rode on the referee's bus for a week. She was traveling to live events because she was telling everybody this is part of her Tough Enough training, that Al and everybody sent her out here to do it. So everybody knew Tough Enough was going on, and they went with it. I mean, she was literally riding and sleeping on the referee's bus. And she would go to the towns till one day she got face to face with Vince. We heard about it. And then she was back in LA again, and MTV had her face all over the place to not let this person in the building call the police. I mean, it was a scary thing, but whatever happened, she snapped. Like, I'm not sure what else happened in her life before then, but something got to her by the time of the weeks we were there that she completely snapped, and she went wackadoo. And so at the one point, and so let me paint the picture of where the house was. When we say she's on the roof, they went to Calabasas Mountains. That roof, all that was on the other side was a 300-foot drop.
Yeah. I actually went back to that first episode to see the distant shot of the house.
Yeah.
This is a big house.
Yeah. And so that's when they called us in on it. And that's when we were told that she was kind of put where she could be protected. And then we've learned all these things. So people then are calling us during the week and stuff. Is this girl still, no. And now MTV's involved, and the authorities are involved, and law is involved. And so that was something that was really crazy to everybody. It really took everybody. Try again. My phone's talking. I think I might have said something, but yeah, that was all of what you said is true. And there was so much in between, and you had to keep it from the kids because you didn't want the kids to panic, because it literally happened so fast. No, I'm not going out tonight. She was the only one to stay home by herself. And within an hour, she had gone. Now, just so we're clear, there was no drugs in the house. There was no nothing. Like they were being watched 24/7. So if there was a medical episode or something, someone was there. Well, that's what happened. They thought she needed, and she picked that guy up off the floor, and she literally had to be restrained by numerous people, and wrapped up in the old jacket and taken off because she for whatever reason she just snapped, man. And it was scary, and that's what they didn't want to do, is scare the other kids, because she just had enough and kind of pulled the Jill thing, and she's gone. But the whole time, and the kids weren't privy to all this other stuff that was going on. We were getting daily updates, and people going, "Hey, we got your girl here, and she's been on the button." No, she's not our girl. Don't stop her. Don't let her on there. So they literally had to put like the old face on the milk carton every WWE show. I mean, she was walking through security. She was in catering. She was in locker rooms. She was everywhere.
Wow. I don't want to make too lighthearted of this. I hope she is okay and everything ended up okay, but this is all true, and a lot of this was reported online, and you could actually tell, like you said, the kids, the contestants, they didn't know. You could see the confusion on their face. They knew there was more to it, but they didn't know. And this clears up a lot of stuff.
Between Lisa and Al and I, we were trying to make ourselves feel better about it by blaming each other. You pushed her over the edge. Oh, you made her snap. You were too hard on her. We were trying to make light of it just between the three of us, because we were like, what the hell just happened? Because, like, if it would have went differently, if she would have went off the roof, that would have been devastating.
Tragic.
Man. It would have been tragic. It would have been devastating. Not the heck with the show. Because and to be honest, for a while there, we were backtracking to see what we did to make that happen. I mean, literally, Big, Al, Ivory, myself, we're sitting there going, what did we miss? Because we're very attentive and we're with them all the time. And there wasn't one thing that happened. And she just, boom. And everything you read, is exactly true. Like, she was on the, like, most wanted. Do not admit, do not call the cops, make sure. She ran from her parents a bunch of times. I mean, that day in the airport, she stole a rental car.
Seemed like a perfectly normal person on camera. It didn't seem like
never guessed.
She wasn't struggling any more than anybody else necessarily.
Nope. And they went out one night and she didn't go out. And
yeah. Well, Bill, that's going to be our stopping point this week. We'll jump back in and start on episode 4 next week. Man, this is just fun stuff. I expected this to be a long episode, but it's going to be a long few episodes.
Yeah, man.
And personally, I love this, Bill. I appreciate you sharing your knowledge here and speaking the truth, because this is a moment when WWF really started getting mainstream.
Yeah.
Post Attitude Era kind of coming to an end. Then WWF is mainstream here. It is television, and it starts to become reality TV. And this is a big part of it. You were a big part of it.
Thank you. Yeah, and I hope it gives everybody who's listening and tuning in, it kind of gives, like, I would say, pull back the curtain a little bit on the ins and outs and how it really came to be. Because at the end of the day, and we'll talk about it, next week and further, people just saw that 30 minutes, 45 minutes of TV, so they got to make their own opinions. But hopefully 20 some odd years later, we're starting to tie it all in, so it really starts to make sense and people go back and view it. But I hope everybody continues to follow us, click the like buttons and tune in, because but this is a lot of fun. We're gonna have a heck of a ride here, man. This is great, Jeff.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate you very much, Bill. And Bill's right. Let's, share it with your friends, leave a review, whatever you can do to help out I'd appreciate it. I'm sure Bill would too. And we have a website up. Bill informed me that I actually do have it live. Didn't know I do. BillDeMott.com is live, dang it. There's a contact form on there, and you can also email us at BillDeMottPod@gmail.com. We want to hear from you. We want to have you involved, and we hope you're enjoying it as much as we are. Heck, I would do this with you, Bill, if nobody was listening.
Yeah,
I think that's a good sign to me. Yeah, that's a good sign. It's fun.
Good.
So, Bill, we'll come back at it next week. So, everybody listening, thank you very much. And in the meantime, keep being you, keep being great.